Il professor Kresimir Pavelic viene direttamente da Zagabria, è un professore docente universitario, è un medico e anche un biologo molecolare. Chiedo un po' di attenzione gentilmente. Grazie. È un biologo molecolare, quindi non è solo un medico, è un esperto di cellule, di processi fisiologici e biologici dell'organismo, e lui vi presenterà i risultati, i numerosi risultati che lui ha ottenuto. Vi devo dire che questo dottore, questo professore ha un curriculum, io non riuscivo neanche a finire di leggerlo, ve lo vedete sul sito in inglese, è un pozzo di scienza, devo dire, quindi dobbiamo essere molto fortunati, molto onorati. È la prima volta che viene in Italia. In Italia no, perché lui lavora con l'Università di Napoli, ma a Milano è veramente la prima volta. E gli abbiamo chiesto di parlarci dei processi di detossificazione. Vi lascio nelle sue mani. Grazie.
Thank you. Thank you, Dottoressa Modugno, for this giving me opportunity to be here. It's a wonderful experience for me. Today I will present some new medical device which could be used in medicine very successfully. I will talk about environmental pollution, the impact of our health, the basic method of action of zeolite, particularly clean octilolite, toxicology, about medical application and the role in aging and anti-aging process. First, I would like to be critical about modern medicine. Because properly trained at medical institutions, doctors are well versed in and a believer of the reductionist model of health, which means to identify problem and prescribe the solution. And solution usually comes in pill bottles. So we know that this does not work, especially for majority of chronic illnesses. And this reductionist paradigm of conventional Western medicine has attempted to simplify the human being. So medicine today is based on clear-cut or yes or no diagnosis that very often miss the underlying causes of more subtle manifestation of illness. So most conventional doctors are taught that you have disease or you don't have. So there are no gray areas. And the practicing medicine that way is extremely misguided because it misses one of the most fundamental law in biology, the continuum concept. And what does it mean? From optimal health to hidden imbalance to serious dysfunction of disease. So anywhere along that continuum, we can intervene and reverse the process, and the sooner we address it, the better. So conventional medicine is based on a trial and error approach. What does it mean? It means that patient presents with symptoms, and doctors makes the most likely diagnosis that is consistent with symptoms. Doctor prescribes drug and possible other treatments, and drug dosage is typically based on the patient weight. So if the drug does not work, then or has significant side effects, then doctor may change the dosage or try another drug, if it's available, of course. Alternatively, doctor may abandon the original diagnosis and write a new prescription. So this cycle could be repeated until the correct or more precise diagnosis, treatment, and treatment plan are discovered. So this is a typical trial and error approach, which still persists in the medicine. So we definitely have a profound gaps in our knowledge, in disease causes, in biological markers of their presence, on factors that influence the effectiveness of remedies or drugs. And it is really alarming the degree to which the trial and error approach persists even when this knowledge does exist. So, in other words, we need a new medicine. I'm a medical doctor, but I'm really very, very skeptic about today's medicine. So we need, this new medicine could mean personalized medicine, which is actually individualized approach to treatment, to diagnosis, which takes into account personal, individual patients' needs, genomic profile, the system, the situation, their habits, their entire surrounding. So another interesting point is so-called integrative medicine, which which takes into account patient body, but also spirit and mind. And this is, I would say, marriage between Western medicine, Western conventional medicine, and traditional medicine, together with the so-called CAM approach. CAM means alternative and mainly alternative approach. So we need this new type of medicines because of reductionist model in medicine, absence of continuum concept, profound gaps in our knowledge, trial and error approach, even effectiveness of some major drugs, and definitely increasing money spent on healthcare. So I would like to stress the question of pollution and impact of our health, because this is a very big problem. The strongly worded report in USA confirmed that the toxic chemicals are grossly underestimating risk factor for cancer. And there was a panel which urged the President Obama to remove the carcinogens and other toxins from our food, water, and air that needlessly increase healthcare costs and cripple nation productivity. These are the words of that panel. And it's interesting, there is strong links between chemical pollutants and cancer. Simply, this cannot be ignored, and lives across the country, not just the United States, but also Europe and other countries. So the chemicals of concern are in our agricultural fields, in food, commonly used products, including clothing, household, plastics, children, women, and men on a daily basis. So in 2004, there was one interesting study which showed that 200 industrial chemicals and pollutants are present in umbilical cord, blood from 10 babies born in August and September in 2004 in US hospitals. So tests revealed a total of 287 chemicals in the group. And the umbilical cord blood of these 10 children harbored pesticides, consumer products, ingredients, and wastes from burning coal, gasoline, and garbage. 287. So among them, there were 8 so-called perfluorochemicals used as stain and oil repellents in fast food packaging, in clothes, textiles, including Teflon, recently characterized as a likely human carcinogen. Of the 287 chemicals, 180 cause cancer in human or animals, 217 are toxic to the brain and nervous system, and 208 cause birth defects or abnormal development in animal tests. So this was published in this source. So the one of solution could come from the nature, and it's called the zeolite. But I will talk mainly about one specific sort of zeolite, which is called clinoptilolite, and which is suitable for human use. So let me just explain terminology. Zeolites are a large family of inorganic structures. They could be natural, but also synthesized in a laboratory. Clinoptilolite is a specific sort of natural zeolite applicable in medicine. I will use the term raw material, which is non-activated clinoptilolite, then double activated material by special procedure, and the so-called PMA clinoptilolite, which is double activated and specifically treated during production. I cannot give you details about the treatment because this treatment, because it's under patent protection, but this procedure is very simple. There are 100 types of zeolites, and some of them are even toxic and carcinogenic, like fungi. Some fungi are eatable, and some are not. Okay, so what are these structures? Zeolites are hydrated natural or synthetic crystals with very well-defined structure, tetraedra, joined together in various regular arrangements to form an open crystal structure, like this. So properties are really fantastic. Inorganic cation exchangers, which means they can exchange cations. They can absorb special molecules. They are active reservoirs for catalyzed reactions. And they are molecular sieve, which means that they have ability to selectively sort molecules based primarily on a size exclusion process due to very regular structure of molecular dimensions. So with these properties, zeolites earned extensive industrial uses, and especially in biochemistry, agroindustry as detergents, in soil improvements, nuclear industry, textile industry, energy storage, etc., and recently in medical industry or pharmaceutical industry. The tribomechanically micronized zeolite, clinoptilolite, which is the major part of my talk, is prepared by specific milling procedure, which is called tribomechanic procedure. I am not going into details, but it causes significant, the treatment causes significant decrease in particle size change, in particle size distribution, and increase in specific area of zeolite. So these changes depend on the type of material, and there are special machines which actually rotate it in opposite way and allow zeolite particles to collide and to become smaller. And of course, this procedure and restructuring of zeolite material causes very interesting properties which could be used in medicine, like absorption capacity, etc. Just to see how they look, for example, this is synthetic under the scanning electron microscope. This is zeolite A, which is synthetic zeolite. It has a cubic and ball-like structures. Raw clinoptilolite, it's flake layer structure. And the PMA, which is used in pharmacies these days, smaller flake-like structures than those observed in raw clinoptilolite with a bigger surface. And this new material, which is called new active flat flakes stitched together, similar to those in raw clinoptilolite, or more rounded particles. So this material is the best for medical use. The major question is whether this structure is toxic. So the toxicology was performed in 2000, 16 years ago. Preclinical toxicology, according to the standards and regulations of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Principles of Food Laboratory Practice, and no toxicity was observed in this preclinical study. And classical acute, subacute, or subchronic and chronic study was performed on both sexes. Reproductive developmental toxicity, teratology, local tolerance, repeated dose dermal tolerance testing. And the conclusion from this very expensive study was that oral in-diet administration to mice and rats for 6 and 12 months respectively caused no changes that could be considered to a toxic effect or treatment. The clinoptilolite equalized and shortened the pregnancy period, or regulated actually. The number of pups per liter was increased. There were no differences between control and treated animals that would suggest reproductive toxicity attributable to clino administration. And clino did not elicit toxicity during the period of organogenesis, so was not toxic or allergic for the skin also. What are the medical applications of zeolites? In 2003, I was invited to write a chapter for the American handbook of zeolite science and toxicology, and I found in literature, scientific literature, different medical applications, like antidiarrheal agent, external agent for external application, anti-tumor, adjuvants, contrast in magnetic resonance, decontaminant, antibacterial agent, the remedy for diabetes mellitus, etc. For example, there were very interesting data on in animal study. So inclusion of clean optilolite could be beneficial for animal production. For pigs, which are fed with clean optilolite, they experienced weight gains and losses and are less susceptible to disease than pigs fed normal diets. So the clean optilolite was acting as a detoxifier in these animals. Incorporated into diet, it reduces deleterious effect of aflatoxin in growing Japanese quail chicks from 10 to 45 days of age, and significantly reduced the aflatoxin effect on food consumption. This was published in early 2000 or 95. It also have radioprotective effect because of the ion exchange properties. It takes up certain radionuclides, strontium, cadmium, cesium. And what is maybe most important, it removes heavy metals and organopoisoning with selective elimination of ammonia and heavy metals as lead, cadmium, cuprum, chromium, etc. There are several clinical trials on zeolites, and one of them was published in 2009 in United States. It's a double-blinded clinical study with evidence supporting the use of an activated clean optilolite suspension as an agent to increase urinary excretion of toxic heavy metals. So this was proven in a clinical experiment. And there are some other data about antimicrobial effects and antiviral effects, antiviral properties. And of course, on very strong antioxidative effect in hepatic disorders. We used in our research model of partial hepatectomy in rats, and liver manages to restore any lost mass and adjust its size to that of the organism, while at the same time providing full support for body homeostasis during the entire regenerative process. So during the liver regeneration process, cells proliferate and differentiate into hepatocytes. So this was the strong effect of activated clean optilolite. And I am not going into details. We know the mechanism of this action. And we also get European patent on osteoporosis action of zeolites. The values of measured histomorphometric parameters for the group of animals receiving clean ophthalmolite are indicative of any increase in the bone formation relative to the groups receiving synthetic zeolite or other zeolites. So now preclinical tests for osteoporosis are finished, and the EU patent was approved, and the double-blinding clinical one-year study was finished, and now it's in top 2 study, which is in progress. And at the end of this year, I think that we will have a clinical proof for anti-osteoporosis effect of special kind of zeolites. Here you can see the 3-dimensional reconstruction of measured cubical segment of trabecular bones. These are bones treated with physiological saline, and this is treated with zeolite. It's much more compact. There are some properties of clean ophthalmolites which are relevant to anti-cancer therapy, but not as a strong chemotherapy agent, but it is a classical adjuvant agent. I'm not going really into these details, but I can tell you that in a couple of experiments, different authors showed the anti-metastatic effect in mouse mammary carcinoma metastasizing model in the lungs. And what is more important is that this treatment does not interfere with the classical anti-cancer treatment. So clean ophthalmolite together with here doxorubicin decreases the amount of or number of metastatic nodules in lungs. There are several data which confirm these results, and we also know the mechanism of the action using very powerful so-called DNA chip technology. This technology is based, it could measure activity of entire genome or all genes, about 22,000 genes in one simple experiment. And each of these points represents one gene. We know the position of the gene, and the color represents the intensity of the gene activity. So using this powerful method, we analyzed what is actually happening after zeolite intake. And we found some interesting data that this treatment influence the genes involved in programmed cell death and in cell cycles and in response to oxidative stress. And so these are very complicated analytical methods, but summary of entire anti-tumor experiments are the following. Clean ophthalmolite could serve as a new adjuvant in anti-cancer therapy, as treatment of mice and dogs suffering from a variety of tumor types led to improvement of overall health status, a prolonged lifespan, and decrease in tumor size. I would like to mention that zeolite, because of its antioxidative and detoxification properties, very well fits to those persons who are under chemo or radiotherapy treatment. because it diminished the negative side effects of the drugs. Detoxification potential of clinoptilolite is very powerful, and we used to prove this, we used a model of artificial stomach and gut, and we found that this PMA or clinoptilolite could exchange very efficiently lead, cadmium, chromium, arsen, and aluminum from the artificial stomach and gut. And this was proved also in animal experiments, in vivo experiments. Okay. So you can see here the animals were contaminated with aluminum, and then we measured the quantity of heavy metals in plasma, in bone, brain, and liver, and almost all zeolites, including the artificial zeolite A, decreased the amount of heavy metals in these organs, with the exception of brain. So conclusion from these type of experiments were that ion exchange properties of clinoptilolite are visible for all, not just for clinoptilolites, but for all zeolites, and that the raw clinoptilolite, PMA, and so-called neo-active performed the ion exchange of lead in very acidic environment, which is actually part of our gastrointestinal system. And finally, I will end up with some interesting data about life expectancy and aging, anti-aging treatment. So it's interesting that in 1786, the average life expectancy was just 24 years. 100 years later, it doubled to 48. And right now, a newborn can expect to live an average of 67 years. So with recent discoveries in biology, many scientists predict that life expectancy will continue to triple digits. In fact, if they are correct, humans shouldn't have to die at all in the future. Let's see how it's with other organisms. The pando is a clonal colony of single male Populus tremuloides, determined to be a single living organism by identical genetical markers at an estimated 80,000 years old. Another organism, Turritopsis nutricula, the immortal jellyfish, could live on forever without dying of old age. That some species of sponges in the ocean near Antarctica are thought to be 10,000 years old. And there are so many examples in nature. So if you take Bible, for example, from generation 1 through 8, alleged lifespan average almost 1,000 years. And in generation 9 through 22, a lifespan declined to 147 years. And in generation 33 through 47, lifespan spans average less than 55 years. So here are some numbers. Adam, Lamu, Seth, Shem, they lived long. But if we are open-minded, and open-minded examination of the recorded ages now is important, because after global flood of Noah's time, lifespans began to decrease significantly. Recent discoveries related to telomerase and stem cells suggest a biological basis for such immortality. And also, deleterious environmental factors after flood, especially greater radioactivity, more UV radiation, more bad water from mining runoff, and more serious climatic swings by the post-deluge hydrologic cycle, which induced the ice age by much more evaporation of the warmest post-deluge oceans to have formed dense cloud cover from the ice age. So all these factors may contribute to this process. But inbreeding depression also, close inbreeding was a social and legal custom which was well documented in the Old testimony. But there are also some genetical predisposition for long life. I will give you some examples. Several classic experiments with fruit flies that show that longevity is genetically determined. There are some population of Drosophila melanogaster which lives 3 times more longer than others. And the work with the 5 mutant strains show that definite degrees of longevity were associated with the presence or absence of certain genes. So what we can conclude that the biblical ages should not be dismissed solely because they raise currently unanswerable or philosophically uncomfortable questions. Neither should conflict with the established theories of archaeology, anthropology, and paleontology stop evaluation of these possibilities. So the biblical claim of exceptional longevity exists, and it is intriguing, coherent when genetically interpreted. And I will give you just one or two examples. Free radicals. The term free radicals is used to describe molecules with unpaired electrons, those that may have a positive, negative, or zero charge. And they are hard to pin down, and as a result, their possibilities are endless. So, other words, they can prove widely destructive or instrumental depending on context. And for these reasons, we use antioxidants, which catches these free radicals. So why we have to die? As any cell gets older, it is under attack by these free radicals in the body and environment, especially pollutants. So we survive as living beings because our cells have the ability to duplicate and replace themselves before being killed by these natural causes. Each time our cell divide, our DNA molecule makes a new copy of itself. So free radicals, they cause the neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, and finally death. I will skip this. I will skip also this. But this is very important, which claims that our cells has some kind of clock mechanism on their genetical materials. So powerful clock controlling agent with the cells called telomere. And they are here on the end of our chromosomes. So length of telomere chains becomes shorter as we grow older. So this point, when the cell has lost vital DNA code and cannot reproduce, is called the Hayflick limit. And it is the measure of how many times a cell can copy itself before it dies. So each cell has a programmed cell death mechanism, which is regulated by these telomerases. But some cells in our body have a very high Hayflick limit. These cells appear to have the ability to regrow telomeres even in aged bodies. So there is a possibility to prolong, to extend these telomeres and to extend the cell growth. So there are biological bases for exceptionally long lifespans, and they are inherent with the human body. First, there is an enzyme telomerase, which inhibits the progressive loss of telomeres. And telomerase expression is highly correlated with immortality in human cell lines. So normally, telomerase is only used to increase the length of telomeres during the formation of sperm and perhaps eggs, thus ensuring that our offsprings inherit long young telomeres to propagate the species. So scientists eventually may be able to impart a significant measure of improvement of longevity. And how they can do it? They can increase the telomere length, and increased telomere length was positively associated with telomerase. Stimulated telomerase activity in normal cells resulted with the increased the length of telomeres and the prolonged lifetime of the cells in tissue culture, but also of some organism, like Drosophila melanogaster, mice, etc. So the increased proliferation of such cells was perhaps equivalent to hundreds of years of human life. There are some molecules which are important for our ages. For example, progerin is the same protein that causes our own more standard aging. It causes extreme premature aging called progesteria in young children. When the telomeres become too short and frayed, this triggers the production of progerin. Studies are underway to block the excess production of the protein in children with progeria and prolong their, to slow down their aging. Also, there are some other molecules. So the proposed strategies of life extension are the following: nanotechnology, cloning and body part replacement, cryonics, strategies for engineered negligible senescence, genetic modification, and fooling genes. I will just mention one: nanotechnology in telomere prolongation, where synthetic DNA nanocircles consist of telomere repeat sequences, can be used to elongate telomeres and thereby renovate tissue. And this works in laboratory. And therapeutic application, such as the treatment of macular degeneration, effects of skin aging, liver degeneration, and cancer are under investigation. We are developing now the remedy for macular degeneration and for prevention of macular degeneration, and we are now in preclinical phase. So for humans to extend life, we must do two things. First, eliminate the toxins, and the zeolites are a very good candidate for elimination of toxins from our environment then that somehow rust the cells. Next, we wait for a scientific breakthrough, perhaps some pharmaceutical that will reactivate telomere production in healthy cells. And understanding and controlling telomeres in healthy and cancerous cells will lead to cure of prevention or prevention of cancer. So the 21st century may well be the era in which humans learn the secrets of life, eternal life maybe, but it may also be a time to be reminded of the many danger inherent in exploring and exploiting those godlike abilities. And conclusion, clinoptilolite could be useful in cancer patients, maybe as a direct anti-cancer agent, but definitely as adjuvants in cancer therapy, in combination with chemo or radiotherapy, and maybe antimetastatic remedy. It increases bone formation. It has immunostimulative effect and strong antioxidative effects, so it is a scavenger for free radicals. And definitely it is decontaminant for heavy metals, pesticides, mycotoxins, and radionuclides. It is non-toxic and safe compound. Thank you.